Imagine for a moment that you're standing in a softly lit room, and there's a door ahead of you. It's not one you can see clearly. It's partly shadowed, a little mysterious. And you somehow know that beyond it is the unknown. That door could be death. But maybe what passes through it isn't what you expect. You might have grown up believing there's a you, a soul, a true self that sits somewhere inside your head, watching everything, making decisions, staying the same from birth to death to whatever comes next. It's a comforting story. But according to the Buddhist view, it's not quite accurate. In fact, it might be leading us astray. Think of your face in the mirror. A few years ago, you look one way. Maybe your hair was different. Your skin had different lines. Your thoughts were different. Now you look slightly different. Thoughts you had 5 minutes ago have changed. The selfies from last year feel like a different person looked back. If you look closely, where is that unchanging you? Buddhism suggests there isn't one. Consciousness isn't a fixed thing that you carry around. Rather, it's a flowing process, a beautiful, ever-shifting stream. When you get angry, where does that anger live? You can't place it like a rock in your hand. It arises, it stays a moment, then it dissolves. Consciousness works the same way. It's not a marble rolling from life to life. It's more like a wave, or a flame passing from one candle to another. Something continues, but it's changed. The conditions change. The shape changes. The experience changes. Modern brain science seems to agree, just quietly. Without dramatic headlines, there's no central self-controller in your brain holding everything together. It's a collaboration of memory, attention, emotion, thoughts, all happening together. So when your body stops, when the lights go off, what happens? Is it like flipping a switch and you just vanish? Or might it be something like water turning into steam? Same substance in a way, but different form? Buddhism leans toward the latter. The body ends, but the stream of consciousness shaped by patterns and intentions continues. Only it takes a new form, conditioned by what came before. Now here's where this really starts to matter. Because if your consciousness is a static soul and death is an abrupt stop, then what you do now matters deeply, not just for this life, but for the flow that continues. Every thought, every intention, every habitual reaction build a field in which your consciousness flows. If you're living with kindness, awareness, gentleness, those patterns become part of that stream. If you're living with anger, regret, constant fear, they too become part of the stream. So maybe you ask, does that terrify you? Maybe, because it means you can't blame everything on fate or bad luck for how your mind feels or how your life is going. And maybe that's good, because it also means there's hope. You can influence the stream. You can shape the flow. If you've stuck with me this far, thank you. I hope this feels like more than a video. It's a quiet conversation. If this touches something in you, comment below, what pattern am I cultivating right now? And if you're new here, hit subscribe so we can keep exploring together. In the next part, we'll go deeper into what flows after this life, what kind of shapes consciousness might take, and why that idea changes how we live now. Stay with me. Maybe you're still thinking about that stream of consciousness, how it flows, how it never really stops. Let's stay with that image for a bit. Imagine a river winding through landscapes, sometimes calm, sometimes wild. The water is never the same, but always flows forward. Our consciousness is like that. Every thought, every choice, every moment of kindness or anger shapes its direction. Buddhism uses a simple word for this shaping. Karma, not the kind that punishes or rewards you, but the kind that grows from intention. It's not what happens to you. It's what happens through you. If you bump someone by accident, that's just motion. But when you choose to speak with kindness or to lash out in anger, that's karma, because intention lived behind it. That intention leaves a trace, a little ripple in the river of your mind. Maybe you've noticed it in daily life. You wake up anxious, and your whole day seems to follow that rhythm. You practice patience, and somehow the world feels lighter. Those aren't coincidences. They're tiny lessons in how energy moves. Buddhism says the mind is like a field. Your actions plant seeds, your emotions water them, and your habits are the weather that helps them grow. Over time, the kind of seeds you plant determines what grows in your next season, even in the seasons beyond this lifetime. But let's be honest. You don't have to believe in rebirth to see how true this is. You can see it right now. Someone who constantly lives in jealousy and comparison, they're already in a private kind of suffering. Someone who lives with compassion and purpose, they carry a quiet freedom. So maybe heaven and hell aren't places after death. Maybe they're the landscapes of your mind right now. There's a story I once heard from a nurse who worked in hospice care. She said, "When people are dying, they don't talk about possessions or achievements. They talk about love, who they forgave, who they didn't, what they wish they'd said." She said that the calmest passings were always those who had spent their lives making peace with others and with themselves. Maybe that's what Buddhism really points to, not floating spirits or cosmic punishments, but the simple truth that peace at death begins with peace in life. So, if consciousness keeps flowing, maybe the question isn't where does it go, but what direction have I trained it to flow? If you've been feeding your mind anger, that's the current it knows best. If you've been practicing gratitude, that's the current that carries you. There's something comforting about that, isn't there? Because it means the work of shaping your destiny doesn't happen after death. It happens right now, in how you think, how you speak, how you love. And maybe, just maybe, death isn't a wall we crash into. It's a doorway, one that opens based on how gently we've learned to walk. So tonight, before you fall asleep, take a breath and ask yourself, what am I planting in my mind today? A little patience? A bit of kindness? Or maybe just a softer tone toward yourself? That counts, too. If these thoughts speak to you, don't forget to like this video so others can find it. Share it with someone who's afraid of death, or maybe just someone who's trying to live better. And subscribe to join our quiet community, a place where we explore questions that most people avoid, but all of us wonder about. Because the truth is, consciousness doesn't wait until death transforms. It's transforming right now with every choice we make. And maybe, just maybe, the life after death begins with the life we're living this very moment. Maybe by now you started to see consciousness a little differently. Not as a ghost locked in your body, but as a movement, a current, a kind of song that keeps changing its melody. So the next question comes quietly. If it keeps flowing, where does it go? Buddhism describes 6 different realms of being, but don't think of them as fantasy worlds floating somewhere above the clouds. Think of them as emotional climates, inner landscapes that our mind can slip into any day of our lives. There's a realm of gods, the realm of jealous fighters, the human realm, the animal, the hungry ghost, and the hellish state. When the mind burns with pride and endless pleasure-seeking, it's living like a god, shiny but shallow, never satisfied. When it's ruled by jealousy and competition, that's the realm of demigods, always fighting to prove something. When it's covered by ignorance or blind instinct, that's the animal realm, moving but not truly awake. When craving and addiction consume us, that's the hungry ghost world. Nothing ever fills a hunger. And when rage and hatred take over, that's the hell realm, a prison we build inside ourselves. Now here's the part most people miss. These aren't just places we go after death. They're mental worlds we visit every single day. Have you ever had a moment where you're so angry you can't even recognize yourself? That's a glimpse of hell. Or a moment when you're endlessly scrolling through your phone, chasing something you can't name? That's the hungry ghost. When you sit quietly, grateful for a cup of tea, listening to the rain, and feeling content, that's the human realm at its best. So if our consciousness can live in any of these worlds right now, it's not hard to see how it could continue after death in a similar way. The mind simply continues in the direction it knows best. If you spend a lifetime swimming in anger, the current after death might carry that energy forward. If you practice compassion, even imperfectly, that current knows how to move toward light. There's a line from the Buddha that says, "Beings are owners of their actions, heirs of their actions." It sounds stern, but it's actually deeply empowering. It means you are not powerless. Every small act of kindness you choose becomes part of your inheritance. Every small act of cruelty, too. The mind remembers, not like a notebook full of facts, but like a field that's shaped by what's been planted. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I met a man named Paul at a hospice center. He was 81, soft-spoken, with the kind of hands that tremble but still reach for yours with warmth. He told me he used to be angry most of his life, angry at his father, his job, the government, the weather, anything. Then one day at 65, his wife died suddenly. He said it broke him open. "I realized," he whispered, "that all that anger didn't protect me from loss. It just built a wall between me and the people I loved." In his last years, he volunteered, listened to other patients, and prayed quietly each morning. "Maybe this is my rehearsal for dying right." He laughed softly. When he passed away, the nurses said he looked peaceful, like he was listening to something only he could hear. Maybe that's what Buddhism really points to. Death is a continuation of how we've trained our heart, not reward or punishment, just cause and effect, moment after moment. When the body ends, the melody doesn't stop. It changes instruments. And maybe you felt that already in tiny ways. A deep meditation, a moment of prayer, a sudden sense that you are not limited to your skin. Those flashes might be the universe reminding you of what you are, not a fixed self, but a moving pattern of awareness, constantly transforming. Now, the big question, if all of this is true, how we find peace in the middle of such a flow? The answer isn't to cling tighter. It's to understand more deeply. The Buddha called that awakening Nirvana, not a paradise somewhere, but a freedom right here, when craving and fear lose their power. Maybe you've seen it in someone's eyes, that softness that comes when a person has stopped fighting life. They still care, still act, but something inside them has let go. They're no longer trying to control the river. They're learning how to float. That's a taste of awakening. And it doesn't require robes or temples. It can happen while washing dishes, walking the dog, or holding the hand of someone you love. So where does consciousness go after death? Maybe it goes exactly where it's been heading all along. The patterns you build now, they're the road. The kindness you practice, it's the bridge. The anger you feed, it's the storm. You're the builder of the path, moment by moment. When you finish this video tonight, maybe pause for a second before the next one autoplay starts. Feel your breath. Notice a thought passing through. See how it comes, how it goes. That's the miracle right there. That's consciousness moving, silent, alive, mysterious. If this feels meaningful to you, share it. Leave a comment. Tell me what peace means to you today. And if you want to keep walking this quiet path together, subscribe so we can keep exploring the kind of wisdom that doesn't shout, it whispers. Because in the end, it's not really about what happens after death. It's about how awake we are before it. Maybe that's where freedom begins, right here, in this breath, in this moment, before the river turns its next bend. Maybe you're still wondering, if everything changes, if every thought and feeling flows like water, is there any way to find peace that doesn't slip away too? That's a question the Buddha faced too. He saw how people kept spinning, chasing happiness, running from pain, holding on to things that never lasted. He called it samsara, the cycle of becoming. It's not punishment. It's just momentum. One craving leads to another. One fear follows the next. We live, we react, we cling, we lose, and we begin again. Maybe you felt that while turning in your own life. The same argument with someone you love, the same old worry replaying in your head, the same guilt that fades and returns. We keep thinking this time it'll be different, but we end up in the same story with new characters. The Buddhists say that will doesn't stop on its own. It stops when we stop feeding it. The Buddha called that freedom nirvana, not heaven, not some shiny afterlife. It's more like when a storm finally ends inside you. The fire goes out because you stop adding fuel. You stop reacting to every spark of desire or fear. You just see it for what it is, passing weather. Maybe that sounds too peaceful to be real, but you've probably tasted it. Those moments when you forgive someone without needing to win, or when you finally breathe after crying, and for a few seconds everything is quiet. That quiet isn't emptiness. It's understanding. A teacher once told me, Nirvana isn't somewhere you go. It's what's left when you stop running. I think about that a lot, because we spend so much of life running, from pain, from boredom, even from love when it gets too real. But there's something beautiful that happens when we stop. The mind starts to rest in its natural state, open, still, kind. There's a story I love about an old monk in Thailand. He was asked by a student, Master, what happens when you die? The monk smiled and said, the same thing that happens when you live, just with fewer complaints. Everyone laughed, but he meant it. When you stop fighting life, death isn't an enemy anymore. It's just another moment in the stream. You don't need to be a monk to touch that peace. You just need small, honest moments. Maybe it's noticing your breath when you wake up. Maybe it's choosing not to respond to anger with more anger. Every time you choose awareness instead of reaction, you're stepping off the wheel, even if just for a second. The thing is, nobody can do that for you. No teacher, no book, no miracle. You have to watch your own mind, kindly, patiently. And it's okay if you forget. It's okay if you fall. What matters is that you notice and return, over and over. That's how the habits of craving start to fade. And maybe that's what freedom really is. Not living above the world, but living in it without drowning. Seeing clearly, but still loving deeply. I know this might sound heavy, but it's not meant to scare you. It's meant to remind you that you already have what you're searching for. You don't have to chase enlightenment. You just have to stop covering it up. So maybe tonight, instead of scrolling until your eyes burn, just sit for a minute. Let your thoughts wander. Watch them like clouds, some dark, some bright. They'll come, they'll go, and in the middle of them, notice something still, a quiet awareness watching it all. That's you, not the you that worries about bills or aging or mistakes. The you that simply sees. That's the consciousness Buddhism talks about, the one that doesn't really die. It just changes form. And if that feels too abstract, it's okay. Maybe the best way to live with this teaching isn't to think about it at all, but to live kindly, to forgive easily, and to love in ways that make you lighter. When you do that, your consciousness doesn't need to worry about where it goes after death. It's already at peace, even while alive. So if this message sits quietly somewhere in your heart, take it with you. Let it change the way you talk to yourself tomorrow morning. Let it soften your reactions, even a little. And if you'd like to keep walking through these kinds of reflections together, subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment telling me what brings you peace when the world feels too heavy. Maybe someone else will read your words and find comfort too. Because maybe, just maybe, the journey after death isn't about finding another world. It's about learning to be fully alive in this one, right now, until the need for another fades away like the echo of a gentle song. You know, sometimes when we talk about consciousness and death, it sounds far away, like something that belongs in temples, philosophy books, or the quiet of a meditation hall. But the truth is, it's right here. It's in the way you look at someone you love. It's in the pause before you react. It's in that space where awareness lives, the part of you that keeps noticing no matter what happens. And maybe that's where Buddhism has always pointed us, not toward the stars, but toward this very breath. Because the question, where does consciousness go after death, isn't really about geography. It's not north, south, heaven, or hell. It's about direction, the emotional compass you build in your own mind. If your days are filled with compassion, that's where your mind leans. If you live in anger and blame, that's where it turns. It's simple but not easy. Every thought is a drop of water joining the stream, clean or cloudy, peaceful or wild. And little by little, that stream becomes the river of your being. I once met a woman named Grace. She was in her 70s and had just lost her husband. We talked for hours one afternoon. She told me, I used to be so afraid of dying, but after he passed, I realized maybe it's not an end. Maybe it's just moving rooms in the same house. She said when she prays now, she doesn't ask for more time. She asks for more understanding. If I can learn to let go now, she whispered, maybe it'll be easier when the door opens. I never forgot that. It was such a simple truth. We don't need to wait for death to start learning how to let go. We can start right now with our little attachments, our endless expectations, our need to always be right. When you think about it, every moment is a small death, the old version of you fading, the next one arising. You breathe in, you breathe out. That's birth and death, over and over, happening quietly while you check your messages or make coffee. The miracle isn't that we die once. It's that we've been dying and being reborn 1,000 times already, every single day. Maybe that's why the Buddha said, all conditioned things are impermanent. Not to make us sad, but to wake us up. Because once you see how fragile everything is, you stop wasting time. You start living differently. You forgive faster. You say, I love you more. You let go of the need to win every argument. You stop waiting for someday to start enjoying your life. And here's the beautiful part. When you live like that, you're already practicing the art of dying well. You're shaping the stream of consciousness that continues moment by moment. You're teaching your mind peace instead of panic. So when that final moment comes, whenever it does, it won't feel like being thrown into darkness. It'll feel like stepping into something familiar, something you've known all along. I think that's what it means to truly live awake. Not to avoid death, but to understand it so deeply that it stops frightening you. Because maybe the end isn't the question at all. Maybe the real question is, how awake can I be while I'm still here? Right now, as you're listening, notice your breath. Notice the sounds around you. The hum of life that never really stops. This, too, is consciousness, not something mysterious. Just awareness itself. Quiet, simple, always flowing. And maybe the real miracle is not what happens after you die, but what happens when you finally pay attention while you're alive. So before you scroll away or let the next video autoplay, just pause. Let yourself feel this moment. You're breathing. You're here. You're aware. That's enough. And if this kind of quiet reflection brings something gentle to your heart, I'd love for you to stay with us. Click subscribe. Join this little corner of peace we're building together. Leave a comment below. Tell me what this life means to you, or what you're learning to let go of. Because when you share your story, you help someone else find theirs. And maybe that's what all this is really about. Not figuring out death, but remembering that every act of awareness, every act of kindness, every act of letting go, is another way of coming home. Maybe that's where consciousness truly goes, not up or down, not away or back, but right here, into the still, endless heart of the present moment. There's something tender about realizing that consciousness never really stands still. It's like wind, invisible but felt everywhere. You can't hold it, you can't see it, but you know when it's there. And when someone you love passes away, you still feel them in small moments. A song, a smell, a memory that moves through you like air. Maybe that's where consciousness goes, into everything that keeps breathing with love. In Buddhism, they say awakening isn't about escaping the world. It's about understanding it so clearly that even pain begins to look sacred. You stop asking, why me? And start whispering, maybe this too belongs. That's not giving up. It's opening up. Because when you stop resisting the storm, you finally hear the rain. I remember visiting a temple years ago, somewhere in California. There was an old monk sweeping the floor. No sound except the brush of straw against stone. I asked him, "What are you doing?" He smiled and said, "Sweeping away what isn't needed." I thought he meant the dust, but he looked at me and added softly, "Mostly the thoughts." That stayed with me, because maybe that's a practice. Not chasing enlightenment, not worrying where consciousness goes, but quietly sweeping our minds, one thought, one attachment, one fear at a time. And you don't need a temple for that. You can do it while folding laundry, watering a plant, or watching the sunrise. Every act done with awareness is a step out of confusion. Every moment of kindness is a ripple that keeps moving long after you're gone. You see, when the Buddha spoke of Nirvana, he wasn't describing a faraway heaven. He was talking about a kind of peace that can begin now. The peace that comes when you stop adding wood to the fire of craving. It's not about disappearing. It's about not burning anymore. And maybe that's what we're all really looking for. Not eternity, just rest. A mind that doesn't need to fight itself anymore. I once sat with a woman named Ellen who was dying of cancer. She told me she wasn't afraid of death, but she was afraid of leaving her daughter behind. We sat in silence for a while. Then she said, "I think I finally get it. I don't have to take care of her forever. I just have to love her so much that the love takes care of her when I'm gone." That's what consciousness does. It carries the imprint of love, of intention, of kindness. It doesn't vanish. It moves forward in ways we can't always see. Maybe heaven is just a place where all that love finally gathers. Or maybe it's right here when we stop living half asleep. So the next time you're sitting quietly, maybe with your morning coffee or in the car waiting at a red light, try this. Just notice that you're aware. No labels, no names. Just awareness itself, like sunlight touching your skin. That's the core of who you are, Not your age, your story, your mistakes. Just that steady light that's been here since the first breath you ever took. And that's what continues. Not the body, not the roles, but the awareness that's learned how to love. So maybe the question isn't, where does my consciousness go after death? Maybe it's, where is it right now? Because if you can find it here, in the middle of laughter or pain or stillness, then you've already found eternity. Take that in for a moment. You are not lost. You are the river. You're the flame that passes on. You are part of something that never needed to begin and will never need to end. And if that thought brings you even a little peace, hold on to it gently. Let it soften you. Let it make you kinder. Because in the end, consciousness doesn't belong to just one person. It's the shared heartbeat of everything alive. The tree outside your window. The stranger you smiled at. The memory of your childhood laughter echoing through time. It's all part of one great movement, and you're in it. So, if you're listening to this and you feel a little calmer, a little more connected, that's enough. That's the point. Before you go, take a moment to breathe. And if this message spoke to your heart, subscribe, not for me, but so we can keep walking together, finding light in the quiet spaces. Because maybe consciousness doesn't go anywhere after death. Maybe it just keeps whispering through all of us, saying the same simple truth. Be here. Love well. Let go. You probably noticed by now we've talked so much about consciousness, death, love, letting go. And yet, it all seems to circle back to one thing. Life itself. Because maybe the real mystery isn't what happens after death. It's how rarely we're fully alive before it. We rush. We worry. We check our phones. We replay old memories. Build new fears. But under all that noise, there's something steady. Something watching, waiting. It's been there since you were a child. Since before you had a name for yourself. That's consciousness. Not the busy mind that overthinks, but the quiet one that simply sees. And the more you start to live from that quiet place, the less afraid you become. Afraid of loss, afraid of change, afraid of endings. Because you start to see every ending is just another beginning in disguise. There's a story I once heard about a small candle burning next to a great bonfire. The candle said, "When I go out, I'll be gone forever." The fire whispered back, "You'll just come home to me." Maybe consciousness is like that, not disappearing, but returning to where it always belonged. But let's bring this down to something real. Because no matter how poetic we get, life keeps calling us to the ground. To bills, heartbreaks, dishes, deadlines, and people who test our patience. And maybe that's the real practice, bringing this understanding into those moments. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when your health isn't what it used to be, when the world feels heavy, remembering that you are more than what's happening to you. You are the one seeing it. And that little bit of space, that awareness, changes everything. That's how the will starts to slow down. Not by forcing peace, but by remembering, I don't have to react to everything I feel. Maybe I can breathe instead. Maybe I can let the moment pass. Maybe I can trust that the stream knows where it's going. And here's something I want you to really hear. You don't need to be perfect to find peace. You don't need to meditate for hours or renounce the world. You just need to be honest. Honest about what hurts, what scares you, what you long for. And gentle with yourself while you walk through it. I've seen people transform not because they read every book, but because they finally stopped fighting their own hearts. One man told me, I realized I was angry for so long because I thought peace meant weakness. But now I see peace takes strength. And I think he was right. It takes courage to stay kind in a world that rewards noise. It takes faith to slow down when everyone's racing ahead. So maybe the most spiritual thing you can do today is simple. Go outside, feel the wind on your face, and remember you're part of something much larger than your worries. The same breath that moves through trees moves through you. The same life that lights the stars lights your eyes when you laugh. That's a connection Buddhism talks about. Not belief, but belonging. You belong to this great, mysterious flow of being. You always have. And when your time here is done, whenever that may be, you won't vanish. You'll just become part of the current again. Maybe as light, maybe as wind, maybe as a memory in someone's heart. So live kindly now, love loudly, apologize quickly, forgive faster, and laugh even when life feels unfair. Because every moment you do, you polish the mirror of your consciousness, the one that will carry your light forward. If these words find you tonight, take them not as answers but as reminders. You are not behind. You are not broken. You're unfolding exactly as you should. And before you leave, if this touched something in you, share it. Maybe someone you love needs to hear this too. Subscribe if you want to keep walking this road with us. Not because of algorithms, but because of connection. Because we're all just travelers trying to remember who we really are beneath the noise. So take one last deep breath with me. Feel the life moving through you. And whisper to yourself, softly, I am here. That's it. That's consciousness. That's eternity, right now. You've made it all the way here. And maybe that means something already. Maybe part of you has been looking for peace for a long time. And maybe, just by listening, you've already started to find it. We began this journey asking, where does consciousness go after death? And now, after everything we've talked about, the river, the flame, the wheel, the peace, maybe the better question is, where does consciousness go while we're still alive? Because if you pay attention, you'll see it goes everywhere. It goes into the way you speak to a stranger. It goes into the silence between arguments. It goes into how you show up when someone needs you. And it stays not in some mystical place, but in the lives you've touched, the hearts you've softened, the love you've left behind. That's the quiet truth. We don't really leave this world. We echo through it. Every act of kindness continues. Every gentle word becomes someone else's calm in a storm. Every moment you choose patience instead of anger, compassion instead of judgment, you're sending light forward. Light that will keep traveling long after you're gone. The Buddha once said, all conditioned things will vanish. Strive with diligence. It sounds stern, but it's actually an invitation to live awake, to live deliberately, to know that every day is borrowed time, and that makes it precious. To understand that everything you do right now becomes a seed of what continues. And maybe the point of all of this isn't to figure out what happens after we die, but to learn how to live in a way that death has nothing left to take. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to keep choosing love over and over until it becomes who you are. I once heard someone say, we die twice, once when we stop breathing, and once when our name is spoken for the last time. But I don't believe that's true, because love doesn't end when the name fades. It keeps moving, in a daughter's laughter, in a friend's story, in a stranger's smile that reminds someone else that kindness still exists. So maybe that's what consciousness really is. Love that keeps changing form. And maybe the truest kind of awakening is realizing that you've never been separate from it. If this message finds you in a quiet moment, take a breath. Feel the air move in and out, that simple, invisible rhythm. That's consciousness too, gentle, patient, endlessly flowing. It's been with you since the beginning. It will be with you till the end. And if you ever start to feel lost again, come back to this, to your breath, to the space between thoughts, to the life that's still happening right now. That's where peace waits for you, not in the next life, not in the next day, but right here in this very heartbeat. If these words touched you, share this video with someone who's searching too. You never know whose night might be a little brighter, because you did. And if you want to keep walking through these quiet reflections with us, subscribe. Let's keep exploring together, one moment, one breath, one truth at a time. Because in the end, consciousness doesn't need to go anywhere. It's already home, right here within you, within all of us, whispering softly, be still. You're already whole. You're already free. There's a certain peace that comes when you stop looking for answers and start listening instead. Maybe that's what all of this has been about. Learning to listen, not just with your ears, but with your whole being. Listening to your breath, to the way the heart tightens when you're afraid, to the way it softens when you forgive. Because underneath all the noise, life has been whispering to you all along. You might not notice it when you're busy, but consciousness is always there, patient, unshaken, like a quiet friend sitting beside you, waiting for you to remember. And when you finally turn toward it, it doesn't say welcome back. It just smiles, as if you'd never really left. I think that's what the Buddha meant when he spoke of awakening. It's not a dramatic flash of light or a voice from the heavens. It's an ordinary moment, so ordinary that most of us miss it, when you realize that nothing has ever been missing. You were never broken. You were never separate. You were just looking in the wrong direction. Sometimes I wonder if death is simply the last great turning, the moment when we stop looking outward entirely and fall into that infinite stillness inside. Not an ending, but a return, a homecoming. And maybe the ones we've lost have already found it. Maybe they're not gone in the way we think, just quieter, still watching, still loving, still part of the same great current that carries us all. When I walk through cemeteries, I don't feel sadness anymore. I feel continuity. Every stone tells a story. Every name once had laughter, tears, dreams. And somehow, those stories built this world we live in now. We're standing on the shoulders of millions of lives that once asked the same questions we're asking tonight. That thought humbles me. And it reminds me that maybe the purpose of being human isn't to escape pain or chase perfection, but to understand what love really means. To love even when it hurts. To forgive even when it's hard. To keep opening your heart, even when the world makes you unclose it. Because consciousness grows through that. It refines itself in every act of courage. In every moment we choose compassion instead of cruelty. And when the final moment comes, those choices will be the light that guides you forward. So maybe the question isn't what happens after death, but who you become before it. Have you learned to love? Have you learned to see others as part of yourself? Have you learned to sit quietly with a mystery without needing it to make sense? That's the real preparation, not rituals or beliefs, but how gently you hold the world. I want you to think of this not as the end of the lesson, but as the beginning of a different kind of living, a life where you pause before reacting, where you notice small beauties, sunlight through leaves, the taste of morning coffee, the warmth of someone's hand. Because those little moments aren't just life, they are life. And when you're present for them, consciousness finds peace. Maybe you'll forget these words tomorrow. That's okay. What matters is that for a few minutes, you remembered. You remember that you are not just a body, not just a name, not just a list of mistakes or goals. You are awareness itself. the quiet space that holds everything and asks for nothing in return. So wherever you go after this, whether it's work, a walk, or just sleep, carry that awareness with you. And when fear shows up, meet it gently. When sadness knocks, let it sit for a while. When joy appears, let it dance. You don't need to control any of it. You just need to stay awake while it passes through. That's the practice. That's the miracle. And before we close, let me say this. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your time, your curiosity, your stillness. If these moments brought even a small calm into your day, then that's enough. Because every listener who finds peace becomes a quiet ripple in the world, one that might touch someone you'll never meet. So keep going, keep listening. And when you forget, come back. I'll be here, we'll be here, walking the same path, one breath, one heartbeat at a time. If this message spoke to you, leave a comment below. Tell me what brought you here. Share it with someone who could use a little peace tonight. And subscribe, not because you have to, but because this space is built for people like you, the ones who feel deeply, question softly, and keep searching for meaning in a noisy world. Until next time, remember, you don't have to chase enlightenment. You just have to notice life. Because maybe, in the end, that's all consciousness ever wanted. To wake up through you, to love through you, to rest at last in the simple grace of being. There's a quiet moment after every ending, a breath that hangs between what was and what will be. That's where we are now. You've walked through ideas about death, consciousness, karma, letting go. And maybe, somewhere along the way, something inside you began to settle. Maybe you stopped asking, where do we go? And started wondering, how do I live while I'm here? Because that's the real mystery, isn't it? We spend our lives trying to escape endings, but the truth is, every day is both an ending and a beginning. The sun sets, that's an ending. It rises, that's a beginning. You lose something precious, that's an ending. You learn to live with it, that's a beginning. Maybe consciousness isn't a traveler moving from world to world. Maybe it's a witness, watching, learning, loving through every change. Maybe heaven isn't after death. Maybe it's the peace that comes when you stop needing life to be different from what it is. I remember an old man I once met at the beach. He was sitting by the water, staring at the horizon. I asked him, "What are you looking at?" He said, "The place where everything meets." And I realized that's what this whole conversation has been about. That invisible meeting point with a sea of living in the sky of the unknown touch. That's consciousness. That's you. You've been there all along, not inside your thoughts, not trapped in your memories, but in that space behind them. That space that hears the thoughts and holds the silence. That's the part that never dies. So, what do we do with this knowing? We live more gently. We speak more softly. We listen longer. We stop rushing to fill the silence and start letting it speak. We treat each day not like a routine, but like a gift that consciousness is experiencing through us. Because one day, and that day will come for all of us, someone will hold our hand and we'll take that final breath. And if we've lived with awareness, that breath won't be filled with fear. It will be filled with gratitude. Not, I wish I had more, but what a miracle it's been to be here at all. That's the freedom the Buddha talked about. Not escaping the world, but waking up in the middle of it, realizing that joy and sorrow, gain and loss, birth and death, they're all waves on the same ocean. And when you finally stop fighting the waves, you realize you were never drowning. You are the ocean. So, as this story closes, I want to leave you with something simple, a few quiet truths I've learned from all of this. First, peace isn't found, it's remembered. It's always been with you. Second, love doesn't end. It just changes form. And third, awakening isn't a destination. It's a way of walking through the world, awake to the small miracles hiding in plain sight. Look around you right now. The way light falls across your table, the sound of wind outside, the rhythm of your breath. That's consciousness experiencing itself. Through you, you are the miracle you've been searching for. So don't be afraid of death. Be afraid of never really living. Don't wait for another lifetime to forgive, to love, to rest, to be kind. This life, this single, brief, beautiful moment, is enough. And maybe that's where our story ends. Not with answers, but with understanding. Not with the end, but with a quiet beginning inside your heart. If this journey touched you, if it gave you even one moment of peace, share it. You never know who might need to hear it tonight. Leave a comment. Tell me what stayed with you. And subscribe. Not for the numbers, but to keep this circle of calm growing, one story at a time. Because what we're doing here isn't just talking about death. We're learning how to live with open eyes, open hearts, and open hands. So, before you go, sit with me one more moment. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, feel everything. The weight, the warmth, the wonder, and let it all go. This is it. This breath, this life, this awareness. You've already arrived. Where does consciousness go after death? Maybe nowhere. Maybe everywhere. Maybe it just stays. Right here, in the stillness that's been waiting for you all along. And if you listen closely, it's still whispering. You are light. You are love. You are home.